This is Western Mass News on Fox 6.
We start tonight with the latest developments in a story we've been following closely. The local NAACP chapter filing a complaint against the Southwick Regional School District following accusations of racism within that district. Welcome everyone to Western Mass News at 10. I'm Chris Pisano. Western Mass News reporter Maria Wilson is live for us tonight in studio with the latest details. Maria.
Well, Chris, that complaint alleging that the school district failed to conduct a transparent investigation and to protect its black students from abuse.
We filed a complaint with DESE so that they can launch an investigation and determine if there should be any punitive action taken against the Southwick School District.
On Monday, Western Mass News learned the Greater Springfield NAACP filed a complaint with the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education against the Southwick Regional District for their alleged failure to conduct a transparent investigation and to protect black students from abuse. The complaint following recent allegations of racially charged bullying, including claims of an online mock slave auction which targeted black students. The allegations leaving local leaders wanting answers.
The public knows nothing other than the district saying that they did an investigation and they closed an investigation.
Last month, the Southwick Regional School District Superintendent Jennifer Willard wrote in a statement the district investigated the situation in accordance with its established policies and protocols, and the district concluded its investigation. But Bishop Swan, who has been working closely alongside the 13-year-old victim and her family, isn't satisfied with how the investigation played out.
How do you do an investigation? You never talk to the victim or the victim's parents. So that calls into question the credibility of the investigation. Did you find incidents of racial bullying and harassment? Was that corroborated or was it not?
Superintendent Willard says strict privacy laws prevent her from going into detail on whether or not disciplinary measures were taken. But Bishop Swan, hearing from other parents that this isn't an isolated occurrence and hopes that an investigation by DESE will change the culture inside the district.
We want the school district to take seriously its long history of allowing this type of thing to happen. We want them to take responsibility and do what's necessary to create a different atmosphere.
Superintendent Willard responding to our request for comment, saying Southwick-Tolland-Granville Regional School District was notified of the PRS filing last Thursday. On Friday, we responded to all of DESE's inquiries and provided them with all requested information. At this time, we are awaiting DESE's findings. We also reached out to DESE for their response to this complaint. They declined to comment, but they did say that they did receive the complaint. And tomorrow, members of the NAACP are set to attend the Southwick School Committee, along with Allison Lopez, whose daughter is at the center of these allegations. For now, reporting live in studio, Maria Wilson, Western Mass News.